So, what role do open standards play in enhancing user experiences within the real estate domain?
I think it's almost a secondary effect. Software is more usable and more meaningful and more intuitive to people if the developers didn't have to fight so hard to make it. It's easier for a developer to focus on making something user-friendly if they didn't have to do an uphill struggle the whole time just to get the software to function. So by using and relying on open standards, you collapse the amount of difficulties and the number of problems that you're going to have getting that core functionality to work. And when you do that, you still have time left in the schedule to make it highly usable. So if you want to make usable software, using open standards as the basis for your work is a pretty good bet, because it just means that you spend less time reinventing the wheel, right? And you can spend more time focusing in on what makes your app great, what makes it novel, what makes it intuitive and useful to people. You can focus on those aspects of usability rather than just getting the functionality to work at a core level, right? So I think it's really just about, time use. If I have to divide my time equally between interpreting complex proprietary software and trying to make something usable, then that's less time spent on usability than if I had open standards that are easy to adapt to and easy to integrate with.
Could you elaborate this? Could you elaborate this with a specific example or a specific project where leveraging open standard significantly accelerated development and improved the experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So, OcuSell's main product is a AI listing manager, right? So this helps brokers and agents create listings that can be published to multiple MLSs in one step. So the listing manager basically merges together all of the fields that you would fill out for a property in an MLS and does it in an intelligent way. It's all algorithmic. We don't do any of that manually. It'd be crazy to try to do that. But the first version of the app that we wrote, we actually had all of the publishing code in the app. So when it went out to one MLS that was on Rapatoni, it would use the proprietary Rapatoni API in order to do that publish job. And when it was sending something to Spark API, FBS's Matrix product, not Matrix, FBS. What is FBS's Spark API is Flex MLS. So Flex MLS, they had an API at one time. They don't have one right now, but they had an API at one time. We wrote software for it. And again, another proprietary piece of software. So every time we wanted to publish something to multiple MLSs, we had all of this code in our app that had to do with publishing rules. And that app became messy in the sense that we had to write so much code for publishing that it was distracting from usability and UI and user experience, right? So we made a tactical choice, and we rewrote the app a couple of years ago, about 2 years ago. We rewrote the app so that we separated the publishing functionality into a separate server. And what that server does is it uses the Rezo Add Edit API as the way that our app communicates with it. Now, that's very easy. It's an open standard. There's just one way to talk to it, and we can wrap up all of the data structures of all of the MLSs in a Rezo compliant wrapper, and we can interact with it that way from our app. So our app knows about all of the specifics and differences between MLSs, but all of the data is represented in a standardized container that's all Rezo defined, right? So our app got simpler. Our publishing app took on the responsibility of figuring out how to publish into all of these different proprietary systems, and some of them are RET systems. So, right now, that publishing server we call Meridian. It's now its own product, and something that other app developers, if you want to talk to a bunch of different MLSs and publish data into them, it'd make your job a lot easier to use something like Meridian than to write all that code yourself like we did the first time. But because you can externalize the complexities of the publishing process in this case, then you can return time and the budget to focusing on usability in the app. And that's ultimately what why the OcuSell, AI listing manager is so usable and intuitive, because we spent a ton of time trying to make it so, and we didn't have to muck around with a lot of code that was specific to every MLS's publishing process to do it. That got externalized. A different group of people worked on the publishing problems. The people working on the app that the brokers use, they were able to focus on the usability of that much more so.